you.
Hello.
Indeed, an MP, of course, still. Would Mrs May saying, I'm going to go soon, make it easier for her to get her deal through, do you think?
Yes, I think it would. I'm not sure it would be enough. It's plain that there is still a very large number of MPs opposed to her deal. The Democratic Unionist Party show no sign of coming on board, and there are fundamental objections to the withdrawal agreement, which many of us feel. But one of the things I dislike most is the political declaration, which is the way forward, even if the withdrawal agreement gets through. And I think if we had the confidence of a new leader who was taking us into that second stage, somebody who was clearly committed to achieving a clean break and getting the benefits from Brexit, that would give us more confidence.
So, to put it crudely, she would get your vote if she said...
I think it's not as simple as that. I would be more inclined to support the government if I knew there was going to be a new leader taking us into the future negotiations.
But, of course, the other thing is, unless there was agreement on a so-called caretaker leader, you wouldn't have any certainty who that person was going to be.
Well, I'm not sure that a caretaker actually provides any real benefit. Previously, when Prime Ministers have decided to step aside, and I worked for Margaret Thatcher, and then I remember John Major, they both continued until their successor was in office. Now, obviously, it takes a bit longer because now we have a mechanism by which we have a ballot of the membership, but I think it could be conducted pretty quickly.
And you're saying this in the confidence that the next leader would certainly be someone from the Brexit wing of the party?
Well, I would obviously support that, and I think there must be a very strong chance that would be the case.
It doesn't look like she's going to do that, at least as far as we understand. She didn't make that commitment when she met with Brexiteers yesterday. So how do you see this week developing?
Well, I mean, it appears that the third sort of round of the meaningful vote isn't going to happen today. We don't know when it is going to happen.
None of your colleagues saying tomorrow, they're expecting.
Well, we'll see. I mean, one of the things which we are being told will happen is obviously you've got on the order paper these votes for Parliament, so-called, to take control by having indicative votes, perhaps on Wednesday. I think if those pass, then that is very dangerous, because I don't see how a government can actually continue to govern if Parliament is taking through legislation which it fundamentally disagrees with.
She would presumably make the argument that, OK, we're going to have the meaningful votes on Wednesday, but if you vote for my agreement on Tuesday, we won't need the meaningful votes because Parliament will have decided its position. So it's putting more pressure on
yes,
people to vote for it.
I mean, there is still an option that we leave on the 12th of April. We've just heard that the European Union say that they've put in place all the necessary preparations. We've been passing legislation for weeks to put in place the necessary measures in this country. I don't fear a no-deal exit, but I think that the problem is Parliament has a majority against that and will do what it can to frustrate it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Supposing we get to the point that meaningful vote 3 has gone down and we are approaching that week in April where we're due to leave without a deal, at that point, because of how Parliament's voted, is the Prime Minister, whoever it may be, and probably Mrs May, honour bound to say to the European Union, we don't want that, therefore we will hold European elections?
Well, I don't think the European Union is very keen on that. They've made it pretty clear that they don't want us to have European elections and continue to disrupt.
The reason why they've said April the 12th is because of preparations for the European elections. Yeah. Parliament has voted twice against no deal. So if we really are at the cliff edge, few days until no deal, is the Prime Minister in present circumstances honour bound to say, OK, we will hold those European elections to give us more time so we don't leave without a deal?
No, because I think that the position of the Conservative Party was always that we would leave at the end of the period of triggering Article 50. We would prefer to have had a deal. But one of the reasons why I was unhappy about the leaving without a deal was because we had done so little to prepare for that. Well, actually, we have now done quite a bit. And as we've heard today, you know, a lot of things have been put in place. And I don't think the European Union is that keen to have this dragging on indefinitely.
So what do you think the consequences would be if on April the 13th we're out of the European Union?
Well, we would then obviously immediately begin to negotiate our future relationship as a third country. And I believe that we can do that under the provisions of the GATT Treaty, which will allow us to continue to have no tariffs.
Well, we're just hearing, for example, the European Union confirmed today there would no longer be freedom of movement into the European Union. We'd have to join the other queue. We'd have to get our passports stamped. So that's just one example of the movement of individuals. Presumably that would mean that there'd be hold-ups with goods as well. So there would be quite a dislocation initially.
Well, I mean, I think there will be some short-term disruption, certainly. But actually, these are the sorts of things which will need to be sorted out as a third country, reaching an agreement with the European Union. And I think, actually, that there are provisions which would prevent or allow us not to levy tariffs as a third country whilst we're in the process of negotiating.
Well, again, the European Union said tariffs on cars, they come in day one.
Well, let's wait and see, because bear in mind that the cars are mainly coming in this direction because we buy an awful lot of cars from Europe, and we've said that we don't want to impose tariffs.
And they're going to be 10% more expensive.
Well, not if we decide not to levy those tariffs, but we would hope, obviously, Europe will do the same. Tariffs benefit nobody. Well, no, this is not a. If you get into a tit for tat on tariffs,
they protect industries. That's why countries bring them in. That's why we have the Common Agricultural Policy. That's why we're going to go on subsidising farmers.
Well, we're going to go on subsidising farmers in a different way because we want them to achieve public policy goals of green environmental measures, etc. But in terms of things like exports, obviously we have zero tariffs at the moment between trade with the European Union and this country, and I hope that that will continue. And that's something which we will be seeking to achieve in the next stage of relationship.
So your guess is what? No deal Brexit?
No, frankly, I've given up trying to guess, Adam. I mean, things are changing so rapidly. I think it still has to remain on the table.
OK, John Whittingdale, thank you very much indeed.